All right, we're back.
Hello.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day, you bet.
And welcome to a Carmel treasure, a California treasure, Catherine Gualtieri. And we want to spend most of the time talking to Catherine today and hearing from her. The first, a SHPO under Deukmejian, Governor Deukmejian appointed, and a long-term HRB member. That's our Historic Resources Board member. And so I'm just gonna thank everyone. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank everyone for being involved in a series of public meetings this week. We value your input and opinions. And Council, thank you for the direction. We've got some homework that we're working on prior to coming back at future public meetings. So that's what I got, buddy. What do you have?
What do I have? As you mentioned, we had a series of public meetings this week. One of the hot topics was our housing element. As everyone's been tracking along since early 2023, we've been working on a housing element to send to the state to get certified. We are very close to that. We came to council this week with a second redraft version that's going. We've been working back and forth with the state. We had great feedback from the community and the council on some of the language, specifically regarding the city sites. Which, as a reminder, those really have been involved in the conversations since early 2023. We've had 7 public meetings, talked about these sites. I think there was some concern, as often happens with these type of things. They go on for a long time, and unfortunately, some people just become aware of them, towards the end of it, and there's some concern expressed that, oh my gosh, how did we get here? But rest assured, that's been through the vigorous public process since early 2023, and those sites have been included. But we got good language about how we're characterizing how we're going to use those as potential sites. There's no commitments, no guarantees. All we have to do is make an effort to try to find a project that works for us and works for the village. And if that doesn't happen, there's no commitment. There's no punishment. We're not in trouble. We don't have to build something. But we do have to give it an honest effort. And so that's really what the language and the housing element's all about. So we talked about that. We got some good feedback, how to refine that language, which we have done. And we're going to repost today. And we'll put a link for that in the Friday letter as well. And the last little bit, and then I want to hear from Catherine as well, is just a reminder that
the revised language will be
on our housing element website.
Yes, but will it be highlighted?
Yes.
Or underlined?
Yeah, track changes.
Thank you. That's
absolutely. It'll be highlighted so you can see what the changes were from the version that went to City Council on Tuesday.
Great.
Yeah, thanks. Good question. And then the last bit for me is that just a reminder, we're our police department. We are going to be doing a tour on March 29th. The signups are still available. That ends on March 15th. So if you'd like to do that, please sign up. We are going to need to do a little records background check. There's standard procedure for entering a secure police facility, but get signed up and we will be in touch with you after you do. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Catherine Gualtieri, the state's first female SHPO. And Catherine, Chip and I know obviously, but why don't you tell us what a SHPO is? What does it stand for? What does it do?
Well, it's all part of the National Historic Preservation Act, Brandon, that was passed in the 1960s, and every state in the country has a state historic preservation officer, otherwise known as SHPO, and the job is to, I think, work with the State Historical Resources Commission and a small staff in Sacramento to promote historic preservation through incentive programs, surveys, and the like, to encourage the retention of our historic resources that are important to every community. I've always said that preservation happens at the local level. It's most important that you have a city like Carmel who qualifies as what they call a certified local government. And I'm very proud of the work the city has done to create a program that is, I would say, fair and equitable to all who try to apply the various programs. I'm reminded that this year for Carmel, is the 100th birthday of Hugh Comstock's first fairy tale storybook-style cottage, Hansel, part of the Hansel and Gretel combo up on Torres Street. And next year, it will be Gretel's turn to be 100 years old. And I had the privilege of visiting the site last week. Also, I visited Hugh Comstock's office, otherwise known as his studio, with the owner, who was generous enough to show me around. And I hope that the Historic Resources Board will take it upon itself, and they seem interested in figuring out a way to celebrate Hugh Comstock, who had a very, very strong career here in Carmel during the 20s up to his death in 1950. And I just wanted to read one sentence from Creating Carmel, The Enduring Vision by Harold and Ann Gilliam, who wrote this almost 30 years ago. Let's see if I can find it here. Hugh Comstock, remembered for his engaging smile, his warm personality, and his ability to have cordial relations even with people who had been his adversaries at the Forest Theater and in the political arena. And
Wasn't that topical?
Yeah, I thought so too. And he did serve on the Planning Commission up until starting in 1946 after the Second World War. So I think we owe a great debt of gratitude for the vision that Comstock showed us, and his wife Meada's wonderful doll collection that was the impetus for Hansel's beginning as her showroom for that, and her office in Gretel. So I'm very excited to hopefully help through Carmel Heritage and the city's Historic Resources Board an effort to hopefully recognize him this year for all he did to give us the start that we got in the 1920s. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we are excited. I mean, speaking of people that have, contributed to this village, and especially with an eye on the historic preservation, I mean, you're one of those people too, not only at the state level, but we're so excited that you're back in town. You spent time on our Historic Resources Board, and you're just a wealth of knowledge. So hopefully people take the opportunity to reach out to you and meet you and know you, and you're genuinely a nice human being as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But yeah, certainly the beginning of what you read, I mean, a warm smile, very approachable, even with people that sometimes disagree, because you worked on our first historic context statement with me, as well as the survey documents back in the late 90s, early 2000s. To actually establish, well, we had a kind of a loose-knit historic preservation program before that, but really establish standards and guidelines and a process to go through for not just preserving resources as they are, but also if people want to make alterations to them, like we talked about a little while ago, adding on to historic resources. So what are what are some of what would you like to share with the millions of people that watch this show about your time in historic preservation, either at the state level or locally?
I just feel that I had the strong support of my family to work in this field. It was an early beginning. At the beginning, it was mostly a program, historic preservation, through state parks and recreation. And I think a lot of cities and counties in California can be very proud of the programs that they've established. I feel privileged to have done that. And I love Carmel. I'm happy to be here and live here full time now. And I just really appreciate the welcome that all of you have given me. And hopefully we'll continue in that regard. I'm watching carefully how the council looks at the Mills Act, because to me there are very few incentives for property owners to restore their historic buildings, and that one is an important program that should be hopefully continued in Carmel. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, we thank you very much, and I think it's Chip started the vlog here mentioning it was International Women's Day, and I don't think it's worth mentioning again, like the level that you were at the state, as the SHPO. That's a very high level regulatory position at a state level. And you shared with me an interesting story the other day, your recollection of sitting at a large table with other high-powered regulators across the state and being one of very few women at that table. And hopefully we've come farther. We've got farther to go for sure, but yeah, you want to talk about that at all, your recollection of that?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
How about not the recollection, but I mean, how do you feel about the future of, you know, a diverse workforce, obviously, but also the future of preservation in your mind?
Well, some have felt that it's best handled at the local level. I think I've always felt that way. No one really likes to be, you know, talked down to, and I think the program, as it's being run in Sacramento now, they've been very supportive of Carmel. We've just received a grant, I understand, for the second phase of the historic context statement. Those are all very important documents that help us make decisions. And so I see a bright future, maybe not as involved for the state as much as at the local level, and I think that's where the decisions should be made.
Yeah.
I think there's not as much fear about historic preservation as there was even 30 years ago, especially because of all the examples that the HRB, you know, with you on there, and the council locally have supported with alterations and additions to contemporize houses and properties. So, and of course, we've got a quiver of architects now and designers who understand and appreciate historic preservation and can work well within the Secretary's standards to not adversely impact resources.
Yeah, that's a big help, and I think those architects and designers who are working very diligently here in the city provide a good resource for homeowners, and I think the staff at the Building and Planning Department have been excellent in terms of seeing the need as to what is required for older buildings. But there's a lot of work still to be done.
Indeed.
Well, with people like you.
We'll see how we all do together.
The push and pull together.
Well, thank you for coming to join us today.
And thank you for everything you've done for the community. And how long have you been in, is it?
Well, I started writing book reviews for the Pine Cone in the 1990s, so it's been a while.
But when did you become a full-time resident again in the village? Was it
November.
In the last year? Oh, just
November.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice, warm hospitality. I appreciate it.
We're glad you're here. Well, do you know how, you may not know, but do you know how we end this? We always say, take good care to people. So if you'll help us with that, we'll say, have a great weekend and take good care.